A chilling shadow fell over Milwaukee in the late 80s, a monster hid in plain sight. 17 innocent lives vanished into the dark, stolen by a predator operating completely unchecked. His name became synonymous with the absolute darkest depths of human depravity and madness. Jeffrey Dahmer orchestrated a decade-long spree that still haunts the American criminal justice system. But the most terrifying question remains: how did he get away with it for so long? Missing person reports piled up, yet authorities continually looked the other way, dismissing the victims. The horrific truth finally broke out of apartment 213 on a sweltering July night. This is the tragic, systemic failure that allowed the Milwaukee monster to claim 17 victims. Milwaukee in the late 80s was a city fractured by deep racial and social divides. Marginalized communities struggled for a voice against an indifferent police force and institutional apathy. Trust between law enforcement and the LGBTQ community was entirely broken during this era. Dahmer exploited this exact tension, preying upon young men of color who were easily forgotten. He hunted in the shadows of society, confident that no one would ever investigate. The missing posters faded on brick walls, ignored by those sworn to protect the public. In May 1990, Dahmer moved into the now infamous Oxford Apartments on 25th Street. Apartment 213 would soon become a literal house of horrors, hiding unimaginable and gruesome secrets. The terror actually began years earlier, in June 1978, just after high school graduation. Stephen Hicks was his very first victim, murdered in Ohio before Dahmer moved to Wisconsin. For 13 years, authorities remained completely unaware of the monstrous acts occurring right beneath them. Dahmer even survived a 1988 arrest for sexual assault, receiving a shockingly light sentence. The justice system released him to a work release program, placing him directly back into society. The most tragic incident occurred on May 27, 1991, involving a fleeing teenager. Police found the bleeding 14-year-old victim, but dismissed the horrific scene as a domestic dispute. Officers literally handed the traumatized boy right back to his smiling, manipulative killer. That single, fatal error cost several more innocent young men their lives over 2 months. The walls of apartment 213 closed in on Dahmer's victims one by one, month after month. He lured them with false promises, using a calm demeanor to mask his sinister intentions. Once inside, the heavy wooden door locked, sealing their tragic fate within a nightmare. Finally, on July 22, 1991, a brave man named Tracy Edwards fought back. Edwards fought for his life, breaking free and escaping out into the humid summer night. He flagged down a passing patrol car, pleading with the skeptical officers to investigate. Reluctantly, the police accompanied Edwards back to the apartment, unaware of what awaited them inside. The overwhelming stench of decay immediately hit the officers as they stepped through the doorway. An officer opened the refrigerator door, uncovering a scene straight out of a horror movie. Preserved human skulls and gruesome remains sat casually among the everyday groceries and condiments. Jeffrey Dahmer was immediately arrested, effectively ending the most gruesome killing spree in Milwaukee history. The following day, Dahmer provided a detailed, chillingly calm confession to shocked Milwaukee homicide detectives. He casually admitted to 17 murders spanning over 13 years, holding nothing back. Forensic investigators descended upon the small apartment, meticulously cataloging the horrific evidence left behind. They relied heavily on dental records and fingerprints to identify the 11 victims found inside. Crime scene photos revealed a macabre shrine, showcasing a profound level of psychological depravity. The sheer volume of evidence overwhelmed the local medical examiner and shocked seasoned investigators. The FBI quickly stepped in, helping to piece together the fragmented lives of the victims. Every single clue painted a deeply disturbing portrait of severe paraphilic disorders and absolute control. The physical evidence was undeniable, but the legal battle was just getting started. Analysts began to dissect how law enforcement could have missed such blatant, horrifying warning signs. The tragic reality was a fatal combination of institutional racism and deep-seated homophobia. Two police officers were rightfully terminated for their gross negligence regarding the fleeing teenager. The entire police department faced intense national scrutiny and fierce protests from outraged community members. Criminologists studied Dahmer's background, searching for the psychological triggers that created such a monster. Diagnoses of borderline and schizotypal personality disorders emerged during intense psychiatric evaluations before the trial. However, these diagnoses did not easily translate into a legal definition of clinical insanity. The legal system had to grapple with the line between profound evil and mental illness. Prosecutors argued that Dahmer meticulously planned his crimes, proving he fully understood his actions. His ability to manipulate the police demonstrated a clear, undeniable awareness of right and wrong. Despite the confession, lingering questions remain about the earlier years of Dahmer's unchecked violence. Could there have been other victims during his time in the military or out of state? The exact timeline of his descent into complete madness still baffles modern criminal psychologists. Why did the neighbors' repeated complaints about the horrific smell go entirely ignored by management? Society wonders if earlier, unbiased interventions could have prevented the majority of these tragic murders. The complete failure of the probation system, ordering his 1988 sentence, remains highly controversial. We may never fully comprehend the darkest corners of a mind capable of such atrocities. The trial of the century officially began in January 1992, broadcast nationwide. Dahmer's defense team desperately pushed the insanity plea, citing his bizarre and grotesque behaviors. They theorized his extreme abandonment issues manifested into a horrifying desire for permanent companionship. But the jury firmly rejected this narrative, refusing to excuse his calculated, predatory actions. On February 15, 1992, the jury officially declared Jeffrey Dahmer legally sane and guilty. Judge Lawrence Graham sentenced him to 15 consecutive life terms, totaling 941 years. Wisconsin lacked the death penalty, ensuring he would rot in a concrete cell forever. The Oxford apartments were demolished shortly after, erasing the physical monument to his monstrous crimes. The vacant lot remained a haunting reminder of the lives brutally stolen from the community. Justice behind bars was remarkably short-lived for the notorious killer known as the Milwaukee Monster. In November 1994, fellow inmate Christopher Scarver fatally beat Dahmer inside the prison. His violent death closed a terrifying chapter, but the scars on Milwaukee remain forever visible. The systemic failures exposed by this tragedy eventually forced massive, crucial reforms in police protocol. Victim advocacy groups emerged stronger, demanding equal protection for marginalized and vulnerable communities everywhere. Criminal psychology textbooks were completely rewritten, forever altered by the horrific realities of this case. 17 bright futures were extinguished, a tragic consequence of blind prejudice and institutional apathy. We must remember the victims, not just the predator who hunted them in the dark. Their memory demands a justice system that never again turns a blind eye to the vulnerable.